Every day, from the beaches to the farms to the towns, you're affected by the decisions that are made by the Baldwin County Commission. Your Baldwin County Commissioners invite you now to see your county government at work. From the county seat in Bay Minette, this is your Baldwin County Commission.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Next we have item B2. Item B2 is regarding the South Alabama Honor Flight, honoring World War II veterans. And I believe we have Susan Lovett, who's going to come to the podium and lead us through a presentation. Susan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Mr. Barnett, Mr. Thompson. Today is a great day in Baldwin County, and I'm so delighted but humbled to be in the presence of so many great heroes. These men and women who have served our country in uniform and have fought to preserve our nation's freedom are to be commended. Today, the Commission has chosen to express their thanks and sincere gratitude to you for your dedicated service. You are truly America's greatest generation. May God bless you, and may God bless America. We have a We have a very special gentleman in our company this morning who has worked tirelessly to see this effort become a reality. We want to thank him from the bottom of our hearts, and I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Barry Booth.
Thank you, thank you. Everybody knows that any project is a big old train, and it takes a lot of folks to pull it. And Honor Flight South Alabama is certainly that way. And we're a dedicated group. We're all pulling in the same direction, and that's why it's so successful. Thank you so much for that. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, and we appreciate the patience of our World War II veterans, but that project is certainly important to Baldwin County and our nation. So thank you again. We appreciate the families and friends of all of our World War II veterans to be here this morning. It's significant in that we managed to have our second flight in September. It was so successful, and it's successful because of the financial and emotional support on the part of the Baldwin County Commission, the friends and families, the Baldwin County and Mobile County school children. These veterans can tell you what that meant to them. And the so-called strangers that always show up to show their heartfelt thanks to the veterans for what they did for our country. I continue to be amazed at the Honor Flight program and the enthusiasm that it generates, not only in South Alabama, but throughout the state and across the nation. Over 45,000 veterans now have been flown to Washington from a seed planted in Springfield, Ohio. That's a great testament to the people of the nation and our locals for honoring the veterans for what they've done for our country. To give you some insight into what an Honor Flight Day is like, I want to introduce Colonel Pat Downing. Colonel Downing is in charge of our guardian training, and so important. As you know, guardian training is paramount, and Colonel Downing sees to every detail while instilling his own personal message that no World War II veteran will be left behind. He'll probably want to say something about a couple of vets who tried to get on the wrong bus in D.C. and head off to Cleveland, Ohio, instead of coming back to Mobile. Colonel Downing.
Well, Commissioners and the staff of the Baldwin County Commission, it's certainly a pleasure to be here, and we appreciate all of you putting this tribute to these wonderful people seated here to my right today, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Dr. Booth talked about the team effort and the train that moves to get some 90-some-odd veterans to Washington, D.C. and back all in one day. And it is a team effort, but I will tell you that no one works harder than Dr. Barry Booth in putting it together. We also have our director, Commander Pete Ream, who couldn't be with us today. Ms. Margaret Coley, seated back in the rear, one of our other coordinators. Myself with the Guardian training, Colonel John New with the law enforcement coordination. Commander Paul Reed, who's responsible for our medical staff and our screening. By the way, Commander Reed says he's never, as he looks over the applications, he's never seen so many healthy 85 to 95-year-old people in his life. But all that staff that I just mentioned, all these coordinators, put everything together for the honor flight. But the honor flight could not be conducted without the Guardians. And you see the Guardians, they're going to be either wearing a red T-shirt or a green T-shirt. Would you please stand up, our Guardians? These folks actually make the flight happen, because every veteran has a guardian. Either it's usually a ratio of 3 to 1, but if the guardian or if the veteran's in a wheelchair, then it's 1 to 1. And these folks assist the veterans from about 4:30 in the morning of the flight all the way till 9 or 9:30 at night when they pass the veteran off to their family members, or the veteran on their own goes back to their home. All volunteers, all the Guardians are volunteers. They're handpicked, they're trained, we have a training program set up. They pay for their flight, and all are enthusiastic, have great attitudes, they're aware of their tremendous responsibilities, they're physically fit, and they're ready for a hard day's work. And they will tell you that it was a labor of love, and it's something that they would do again and again and again. It's that meaningful to the Guardians and to all of our honor flight staff. They would do it again because of these wonderful people seated here, our World War II veterans. These wonderful men and women who left their homes, who left their farms, their jobs, and their families, and went off and saved the world. Then they came home and, without a lot of fanfare, quietly resumed their lives. The noted historian Stephen Ambrose, who wrote the book The Band of Brothers and Our Citizen Soldiers, said of our World War II veterans, they were the sons of democracy, and they saved democracy, and we owe them a debt that we can never repay. We owe them a debt that we can never repay. But those of us in Honor Flight South Alabama recognize that great debt, and that we may never be able to pay for it. But by giving our World War II veterans the opportunity to visit their memorial, maybe we will begin to pay on some of the interest of that great debt that Stephen Ambrose was talking about. We will continue to go to Washington to visit the memorial until all veterans who want to go, who are able to go, have been able to go see their memorial. And as Dr. Booth said, our motto is, leave none behind. And we won't. Thank you very much.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
My goodness, this is like coming back to church. Should have worn my Cav hat and we passed it and had some money, Dave, just to help us out a little bit. What a great honor.
Yes.
You notice I have a green shirt. I'm the only green shirt here today. I'm one of the guardians, but green shirt guys, we were the bus captains. And have you ever tried to corral this fine-looking group? Get them to all go to the same place at the same time and don't leave anybody behind? It's a challenge. But what a great honor, personal honor for me to get to meet these people. I mean, one-on-one. I see friends, people I've known for years, never knew they were veterans, like Jean Hooker sitting over here. I just, I've known her for years. I didn't know she was a World War II vet. And it goes on and on. I just cannot begin to tell you the impact it's had, I know, on a lot of us to get to meet them, to hear their stories. I met a combat veteran who had 4 combat jumps in the 82nd Airborne Division. I've never seen that. And I've been a soldier since 1954. I've seen 3. I've never seen 4. I mean, I was astounded. He had his picture taken with Mr. Sessions. So it's an honor for me to serve them and help do that. Very briefly, I'm going to introduce you to 3 of them, let them tell you just quickly about that experience. And the first one is Lieutenant Jan Blatchford, U.S. Army nurse. Jan?
Everyone here for making this possible. Talk about. I had many thoughts that day, not only of the wonderful memorial, but of the hundreds of patients that I was allowed to care for, many paraplegics, many wing splint, everything, you name it, I got to see it. But it was my privilege and my duty to do this. The main thing at the World War II Memorial was the panel of stars commemorating all of the veterans of the war. And that had a great impact on me. The second greatest thing that happened was I was asked to go with the group to place the wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier. Believe me, nothing will ever surpass that. And I made it even through TAPS. Thank you.
Lieutenant Aileen Woods, Army Nurse Corps.
It's a little hard to follow these acts. But one thing, just before we left on the flight, I counted the number of veterans, and there were about, I thought 100, but somebody told me later just 90. But there are only 4 females. And I thought that was a pretty darn good ratio. There's not a single girl in this world that has not dreamed of that situation one time or another. The only bad part at this age, you don't know what to do. It was a Memorial Day. It really and truly was. It was out of this world. And of course, as Jane mentioned, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was the most memorable. It really gave you chill bumps. Of course, if Mr. Carpenter is here, he walked with me down those, I think there were about 530 steps, weren't there? And he walked down the steps with me, but I had such a tight grip on his hand. I'm sure he's had trouble using it since. I'm not real sure, but Mr. Carpenter, if you're here, thank you. That was good. But another thing were all the people that met us at the airport, people that, of course, we didn't know. And they were waving flags. I kind of thought, I wish I'd done something more spectacular while I was in the service other than empty a few urinals, because then I would have had really something to talk about. But they could not have been any more exciting. And then as we got to the Mobile airport, it was full of young kids, and they were saying thank you, and they knew what they were saying thank you for. And the only thing I could think of, our future generation, there is hope.
Amen.
Thank you all for the flight. I wish that I hadn't gone now so I could go next time.
One more, Mr. Commissioner. Sergeant Hoagie Carmichael, U.S. Army Ranger.
Always fortunate to follow lovely ladies like that. Weren't they something? First thing I'd like to do is to thank the Commissioner, or Chairman Bishop and Commissioners for the support, and certainly the gentleman here, this fine staff, Father Barry Booth. And it was a wonderful day. And the lady talked about those stars. Each one of them, as I understand it, represents 100 veterans. So there has to be 40,000, there has to be 400,000 died in World War II, and 16 million that served. So those stars represent each one. So that'd be whatever that, somebody add that up for me. My story is kind of brief. When they said Carmichael, I landed on Omaha Beach. And if it had been D-Day, you know I wouldn't be here. We see all the pictures. D+10 in an armored packet. We called ourselves the Dirty 30. That wasn't very nice. And somebody says, Carmichael, you're going to the cavalry. And, you know, I read the story of Custer, and I said, gee, I haven't seen any horses over here. Mechanized cavalry. And just to give you an idea, very briefly, if you watched any of that Marine Division and the 3rd Army Division moving on separate axes towards Baghdad, you know who was out in front of them? The cavalry, mechanized cavalry. Same concept that we used in World War II. I joined the 113th Cav and a quick trip from Normandy to the Elbe, over hill and dale. And I think one of the nice things, the tone and tint of that particular thing was seeing the people being liberated and so on. They always said if the cavalry got in trouble, they could call for the big boys. Well, the recon troops, they would call for us. I was in a light tank, 4-man crew. They don't have assistant drivers anymore, so you see how important I was. And in fact, during the Northern France campaign, I had a job with Champagne and all the stuff, and that's another story for another day. But all the way to the Elbe River. And it was a wonderful experience. I ended up a buck sergeant, you fall out one, and so forth. It was kind of funny with the 4 of us that joined the cavalry. Leo DeMaio from New York. Well, he had to be, well, if he wasn't in the Mafia, he may have been, remember, we're coming to an Iowa National Guard unit that had been in the service for about a year. And they got these first replacements. Leo DeMaio from New York, Carmichael from California, you know, those people are kind of funny. And there was a couple others. But they had to put up with us. Of course, we did a lot of digging in those days. We had to learn the hard way and so forth. We finished on the Elbe, and it was a wonderful experience. And we came home. You know, one thing nice about being a World War II veteran, you have to be at least 60 to understand what we went through. And there are people that, you know, say, gee whiz, what was it like? Well, we didn't talk much about it. This gentleman down here probably never did talk about it. And now we talk too much, I guess. You know, somebody asked me, one of the nice letters I got from one of the kids, he says, what does hoagie mean? Well, some of you are too young to remember Hoagie Carmichael, and perhaps too old also. I had the pleasure of meeting the real Hoagie Carmichael, a place in Catalina Island. And I was working on the construction, this was 1946, after the war. And we went from construction guys to bellhops, and this was at Toyon Bay, and all the movie people came out there. I had the pleasure of carrying Hoagie Carmichael's bags from the ship landing up to their little cottage. Still waiting for that tip. Anyway, you know, we remember the people we served with, the commitment they had. A quick trip to Washington under the auspices of Booth and his wonderful people was that we saw Bob Dole, we saw Sessions, we saw Bonner. They came out to the Alabama site and so on. I noticed that Iowa and California monuments are next to each other. So I came from California and served with the Iowa. It was kind of a nice thing. I took a picture of that. But we didn't say much about the war and so forth. I went back in the service and I had the opportunity to serve with the 3rd Infantry in the 50s when the Tomb of the Unknown became plural, or actually 3 of them now. You remember we had finished our day in Washington, lovely day out there with the 3rd in their immaculate dress, change of the guard, the internal watch over those monasteries, not monasteries, but sanctuaries is probably the word I was serving for. And you know, it was the music of World War II. The times, the events, these things. And something that I remembered, I asked this lady here if she was going to sing. She said, no, I'm going to play. And I want to share it with you. You didn't think, Dr. Booth said you don't have 30 minutes, you got about 3, and I'm probably over time right now. You remember this one? There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and tears thereafter. Tomorrow, when the world is free. I salute the heroes here today.
And you can see, gentlemen, what an experience we had and what will continue. I will say one thing. I'm a veteran, and I have learned so much from these veterans. The stories just get better as we get older. Thank you.
Now, weren't those folks great? And I tell you what, to be in a plane with them all day long, compact like that, and hearing new stories every few minutes from each one of them, it's a day like no other day in our life. I wanted to speak on behalf of Colonel John New. Colonel Downing has mentioned Colonel New. He was in charge of our security for the entire flight and certainly on our trip home. Another person that Colonel Downing mentioned was Commander Pete Ream. Without the precise operational control that Commander Ream gave, you know, our success would not have taken place. So both of those gentlemen are highly prized in the whole staff of Honor Flight. Now, as Lieutenant Blatchford, Lieutenant Woods, and Mr. Carmichael have indicated, remarkable moments happened to them on September the 16th, when 65 years ago, they were fighting with such strength and determination and prevailing against unbelievable adversity. One story that we managed to hear was Mr. Stauffer's story. Is Mr. Stauffer here today? On September the 16th, when we were in D.C., 65 years ago, he was landing on Peleliu. And he was standing at the World War II Memorial, thinking back on that day, because on that day and 65 years ago, he didn't know whether he was going to see the next day at that time. It was very emotional for Mr. Stauffer when he related that story to us. So our Honor Flight Day was full of memories, beginning with the nonstop trip from the airport to the airport, down Airport Boulevard, through the flashing blue lights of those motorcycles. And the vets again commented if we only could arrange that service every time they needed to go to the airport. If you can imagine Airport Boulevard, the two westbound lanes, empty, from Bel Air Boulevard, from Bel Air Mall to the airport. That's the security that these treasures had that morning. And it was absolutely wonderful. I happened to be in the front bus, and it was magnificent. So through mail call on the plane with the cards and pictures from the children, to the moment they landed at Reagan National, they were surrounded by people who were in awe of these veterans, all from Alabama. Children wanted to shake their hands, touch them, hug them, have their pictures taken with them, and yes, even engage them in conversation because they wanted to hear their stories. Everyone was touched by these expressions of admiration, affection, appreciation, and sincere gratitude. These memories will remain with all of us for the rest of our days. But the moment that topped them all, that ticker tape parade through the airport, and I want to quote from a veteran. Many of us have received cards and letters from the vets and from the guardians and some from the children since the flight. But I want to quote. And this gentleman's here this morning. And above all was the arrival back home in Mobile. None of us expected that for me or for no one else. It was a very emotional and gratifying time. And when my grandson put his arms around me, I was overwhelmed. It was the first time in my life that I felt like a returning hero, unquote. The person in charge of that wonderful reception and welcome that you all received is Mrs. Margaret Coley. And I want Ms. Coley to come up and give us a little insight into what goes on with her with being able to put that parade on for you. Mrs. Margaret Coley.
Tears already. Thank you so much for those wonderful sentiments that you've expressed today. I want to thank you all for what you all have done to help make this possible. One of the things that I wanted to say today is we were talking about the school children rallying around Honor Flight, helping to make the reception something that you will remember forever. Last night I had the occasion to talk to a teacher who has a student who received a package from one of you all. I don't know who it is. She couldn't give me the name. But a 13-year-old young man received a package about this big, and in it was a 2-page letter, and someone had lovingly copied all of their World War II black and white photos and sent this young man. And she said, "Let me read the letter." And he took it and he said, "Oh no, tomorrow I want to read it to my class." So today that young man is reading your letter to his classmates. We've been on a mission trying to connect our young people to you, the greatest generation. And Dr. Booth and I have been going from school to school, emphasizing and asking our children to pause for a moment and focus on the men and women who serve our country, who wear the cloth, who wore it, and who are currently wearing it. And they have been so touched by your testimony, and they've begun to learn what a hero is. Going back to the welcome home ceremony, it is not about Margaret Coley. All I do is issue the call to come, and people come because of you. You are our heroes. and they love coming and honoring you. One of the stories I want to share quickly, one of the veterans fell at the airport, and I got the call to check on him. I went to the hospital, and he sat on the gurney. His nose was broken, had a gash up here, but he had this light in his eye, and he looked at me, and he says, "Margaret, do you think I can get on the next flight?" And I said, "I'm pretty sure you can." And so I left, went back, getting ready for the evening. And so I thought, about 4 o'clock, I called him to see if he was okay. He had gotten home. He'd been released from the hospital. And I said, "How are you doing?" He says, "Well, I look like I've been in a fight, but did you find out if I could get on that next flight?" He was more concerned about being able to go, and he truly missed being with you. Dr. Booth and I had the pleasure of going to his home the next day and giving him a manifest with him being number 1 on that list. And he was so very thrilled. On a personal note, I want to thank you for myself and for my 6 grandchildren for what you've done to help make their future secure and safe. They have more days ahead of them than they do behind them. And I have more days behind me than I have in front of me. And so I am very grateful for what you've done for my grandchildren. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you all at our next event.
Just want to take one last moment here and read a short quote from another veteran. I quote, "Our trip to Washington, D.C. on September the 16th is a day that we will remember and cherish the rest of our lives. The Honor Flight team of volunteers and guardians took such good care of us and truly made us all feel like heroes. Tell them thank you. And to us, they are heroes as well." Unquote. Now, this remark absolutely blows my mind, coming from a World War II veteran. Here they are. They thank us and call us heroes. This is a testament to the quiet and humble lives that they have lived, but it belies the tenacity with which they fought and saved the life of our nation. It is truly our honor to pay homage to those who gave us the opportunity to live our dreams. I thank you myself. I want each of you in this room this morning and in our communities to realize the important role that you play in our Honor Flight program. Your continued expressions of encouragement and support keep us flying. So now we're on to Honor Flight 3 in the spring of 2010, when we will gather Colonel Downing, Colonel Callender, Mrs. Coley. We will gather and we'll build another plane load of excitement, and we'll fill it with the happy hearts of our veterans and all our guardians. Thank you, Commissioners, for this morning. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Barry.
Now direct your attention to the screen on the right.
Mr. Chairman, if the veterans will wait just a moment, Colonel Callender has a presentation to make, please.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm number 3 on the agenda. And we'll do that just so we had such a great audience here. And if I might ask to have Commissioner Burke come down here, he was the point man at that time. And so much work was done, ladies and gentlemen, by our county commissioner. And this great guy here who helped us for many years. And what we have is a plaque that's presented to the Baldwin County Commission by the South Alabama Veterans Council. And I know we have some council members here. I see Kathy over there stand up. There's Pat Downing, Barry Booth. We have a lot of members, Margaret Coley, South Alabama Veterans Council. A group of veterans who meet once a month, talk about veterans issue. And this has been one of our major projects. And if you would permit me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read this. Sure. And present it to Commissioner Burke. In recognition of their dedication to the veterans of South Alabama, we give eternal thanks to the Baldwin County Commission for their leadership in establishing the Veterans Cemetery at Saluda Hill, given this 6th day of October, 2009. Frank, thank you for all.
I don't know what to say. It took all the commission, many staff, to bring us to this point on the Saluda Cemetery. Dr. Booth constantly there with us and leading us. He led y'all in your efforts to make Washington for the memorial. But as I was sitting and listening and remembering, you and men and women like you have inspired my entire life. From the time I was 4th grade, December 7th, I remember well, I watched you leave. I watched you on your troop trains as you came through Bay Minette. I read about you and talked about you in school from 4th through the 8th grade. From 8th through the senior years, I watched those of you who returned and built our country, taught me in school, inspired me, and others like me all my life. And you inspire me so here this morning, and to honor us in the presence of honorable people like you is so humbling. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, except thank you, thank you, thank you for all you've done. I watched those who didn't come home and their families, and those who suffered and went to some funerals, lost a couple of uncles. It was just so inspirational and sad, and then to see our country come from where we were in the middle of a depression to where we were after World War II, and it was people like you, those who are not here today, but I remember well, we talked about some of them with some of you here this morning early, who touched my life and continue to, as you do this morning. Thank you. And Barry, thank you.
Isn't this great? If you hear a familiar song, I want you to stand. The Army. Remain standing. You may be seated. How about the Navy? How about the Air Force? And the Marines. This has been a great day, hasn't it? Let's give everyone a big hand. We have a couple of announcements that our Archives Department would like to give at this time concerning veterans.
Thanks, gentlemen, for allowing me a couple of minutes. The first announcement is that if you're interested, check with the Archives Department next week. We'll have copies on DVD of this meeting for you. If you'd like to purchase one, just give us a call or come by the Archives building and see us. And also on November the 21st, it's a Saturday, we'll be having our 3rd annual Veterans Appreciation Day sponsored by the Baldwin County Department of Archives and History and the Bicentennial. So come by and see us at the Baldwin County Coliseum in Robertsdale. Bob Jennings Classic Band will be playing all day. And we'll be honoring the conflicts that Baldwin County residents have been involved in, beginning with the Revolutionary War, continuing to the present. We'll also have a special presentation for Korean War veterans, and as you probably all well know, that many World War II veterans from the county also returned to serve again in Korea. And we want to honor those people this year with a special presentation. Later on that night, beginning at 6 o'clock, the Air Force Band from Washington, D.C. will be on hand to present a free concert, and you'll be able to get free tickets for that. We'll be announcing a little more details on this in the next few weeks, but if you're interested, we'd love to have you come out. This is the 3rd year that we've helped sponsor a Veterans Appreciation Day. If you remember, some of you were there the first year at the PZK Hall in Robertsdale, and we had such an overflowing crowd that we had to move to the Coliseum in Robertsdale. This year it'll be bigger and better than ever with displays, as I've already said, from all the conflicts that Baldwin County has been involved in since the Revolutionary War. We'll have reenactors there doing demonstrations all day long. The Bob Jennings Classic Big Band will be there for you all day. And then later that night, you'll have a free concert from the Air Force Band. So please come out and see us that day if you would. And I just want to say appreciate you all, and we want to show our appreciation to you on November 21st. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
At this time, I would like to ask each of you to introduce yourselves and tell what branch of the service you served in.
Jim Coward, Army Air Corps, Infantry, Combat Engineers. I couldn't get along with anybody. John Douglas, 5th Marine Division, United States Marine Corps.
Alna Quinley, Women's Army Corps.
Stan Arbit, Navy Amphibious.
Gene Burrell, U.S. Navy.
Jim Johnson, I was on a couple of destroyers that didn't make it.
Ed Blouse, I was in the Naval Air Corps.
John Abbott, U.S. Navy.
James R. Mills, USS Griggs, APA 110. I was a coxswain on a LS. Great. Sorry. I was a coxswain on one of them small boats at LS. I'm sorry, I can't think. But anyway, I'm the one that drove the boat in and dropped the front end loader and unloaded the troops and went back. Thank you.
I'm U.B. Boone. I was in a PT outfit in the Navy, and I retired from the Army.
I'm Leslie Smith, Navy, Amphibs, Pacific.
Eldon Hurlburt, 82nd Airborne Division, Army.
R.L. Constantine, Navy.
I Sergeant Edward Rinson, platoon leader with Patton and the Bulge.
I'm
George Jones, and General Patton walked me all over Europe. Joe Harbuck, U.S. Navy, tin can sailor. Gary Roberts, U.S. States Navy.
Hector McCoy, Navy. I was on a carrier in the South Pacific. Saw the sights of Nagasaki right after it was bombed. We took 2,000 prisoners out of there from Nagasaki to Okinawa to be distributed around the world.
Richard Kyle, infantry. I'd like to say to Carmichael, the cavalryman, it's always the infantry that got you out of trouble. We bailed you out several times in Europe.
Julius Turner, Baker, U.S. Navy, retired Army Sergeant Major.
Billy Owen, 83rd Infantry Division, went from Normandy to 18 miles to Berlin when they stopped us.
Charlie Bird, 1st Marine Division, Corpsman. And I wish someone knew that song, I'll Be Seeing You. That was a World War II song.
George Coker from Foley, Alabama. I was on the USS Harnett the whole time she was afloat and when she was sunk. I was on it when we took the Doolittle bombers in to bomb Japan. So I saw that and you're looking at history.
Henry Grady Brightons, Sergeant, 631st Tank Destroyer Battalion, France, Germany, all parts of that country.
Marvin Courtney, I was with 82nd Airborne, and I served with Dick Owen right here from Bay Minette. He was a captain, company commander. He was the best soldier that this country's ever had. So it's a pleasure to know people like that and serve with them. Thank you.
We needed all the help we could get. The cavalry troops used to say, send up the big boys. I said, they don't mean us, the light tanks, 37 filter. They mean the big tanks. Don Carmichael, 113th Cavalry, World War II. Liked it so well, I served in Korea and Vietnam. Wife and company commander in Korea, another job in Vietnam. I love my country like all the rest of you, and it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Elder Trice, Army Field Artillery, European Theater.
Jacob Runsky, PFC, U.S. Army.
Paul Hale, U.S. Merchant Marine. I heard a tin-can sailor back there, and buddy, you're probably responsible for me being here. You saved my butt more than once.
I wasn't a hooker when I was in the military. When I got married, I got to be a hooker. I married a Southerner. My maiden name was Kubik. My parents were born in Czechoslovakia. And nobody knows this, I don't think, except me. No. We had more people of Slovak and Czech descent in Mobile than any place in the United States. We've had over 100 kids going to school at South Alabama. And, you know, an old vet had something to do with it. And, you know, so didn't somebody already die? I heard the other day was it just one person? And I don't know who that was, but I think you all need to know that. Somebody already died, you know, and we need to keep this short.
I'm Lewis Hope. I was in the U.S. Marines in the South Pacific.
And some people don't even know about Guadalcanal. Can you?
I'm Doug Borden, U.S. Marine Corps.
Shelton Wilson, Army Air Corps, China, Burma, India.
George Edgar, South Pacific.
Gene Payne, the Air Force, after going through North Africa, when we got to Foggia, Italy, we set up an air base. Then they transferred me in the Army.
Mel Oldbar, U.S. Army Engineers. We built floating bridges on the Rhine River, plus the other one over there in Germany. And so we'll do it again if we have to.
Aileen Woods, and I was with the Army Nurse Corps, but I stayed in the States. I was scared to go out.
Jane Blatchford, Army Nurse Corps, and in the ETO in northern France.
Arnold Smith, 9th U.S. Air Force.
He's Al McLean. I served on the USS Tennessee. Tennessee fired more projectile in the ship in naval history. That's the reason I can't hear my wife. She asked me to vacuum.
William Harp, United States Merchant Marine.
James White, I was Army Air Corps in England for 28 months, and we had to go over to Belgium for 4 months during that time for the Rhine River crossing. And went back to England, and I stayed over there most of the time I was in the Air Force.
Ray Henning, United States Army, and I too spent some time with General Patton's Army.
James Allen, United States Naval Reserve. As a historical note,
ship full of reserves sank the first Japanese ship.
Yeah, Horace Lucky, U.S. Navy, South Pacific.
Did I miss anyone? Let's give everyone a big hand again.
Let me say that the commission is indeed grateful to all of you, thankful to all of you for all that you've done for us, for our county, for our towns, for our country. We can never repay you for all the good deeds and things that you've saved this country from, and we're eternally grateful. And we just appreciate you so much, and just, gosh, we just pray that we can rub off some of this onto our kids, and I believe with their presence at the airport and them seeing you and talking to you, hopefully they'll understand what this is all about and how grateful they can be in leading this country as they go forward. Commissioners, I know you got some comments before we take a break, so to allow you time to be excused, but if you would, at this point, any comments you have, we'd love to hear from you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank all the veterans for serving our country. You know, y'all had a lot of your fellow soldiers that gave the ultimate sacrifice that did not return, and we honor them also. But, you know, had it not been for y'all, we would not be where we're at today, and thank you very much for providing that to us.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could, you know, it's one thing we have memorials. Well, we have some in Bay Minette, and y'all visits memorials in D.C. We have them all around our country, and there's a reason we have memorials, and that's to remember. If you think of it, even in church at the communion table, it says, "Do this in remembrance of me." The problem with us is we continually forget. It's just part of our nature, the way we're built. We forget things. We continually need to be reminded of things, to remember things. It's awful to see someone who has forgotten their past. Alzheimer's does that to you. We always need to remember. Memorials are good, but it's even better to see y'all, because that to me is that you all are a living memorial, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we don't need to forget Guadalcanal. We don't need to forget Pearl Harbor and December 7th. We don't need to forget those things. If we do, we will perish. We need to remember those. Thank you for being a living memorial. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I just I do remember so many Marines who were at Guadalcanal, so many places throughout Europe, Africa, and others. I just happened to be the one that was at the age who met these people when they returned. And they influenced my life. So, as you do here today, I wish we could turn the country back over today and let you all do some of the things that need doing right now. If the county engineer could get some of you bridge building engineers in charge, we could build a bridge in less than 4 years. There's just so much could be done in this country if we can get folks fired up and inspired like you were and like you do me here today. We just must have it back in this country. We can do better. We must do better. And it's people like you who inspire me to want to do better. Thank you so much.
Again, we thank you all for being here. We thank you for all your service. We can never repay you, and God bless all of you, and we love you and appreciate you. Anything we can do to support you, we're all here to do that in whatever way we can, and we just appreciate everything you're doing. Very appreciate y'all working it out to make everything possible. At this time, we're going to take about a 10-minute break and allow you all time to be excused. Thank you very much.
That's right.
This program has been produced as a public service by the Baldwin County Commission and rebroadcast with the assistance of your local cable television operator. Should you experience problems viewing this program with your cable service or related customer service provided by any cable television operator in the Baldwin County Commission's jurisdictional limits, please contact the Assistant County Administrator, David Brewer, at 580-2550 from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. We invite your participation and hope that our programming continues to bring you closer to your county government.